25th. I'm Adam Walsh. Welcome to Crosstalk live from the James Baird Gallery in Pooch Cove. Ever go on a work retreat? Would it help with your productivity and creativity, do you think? What if it was for a month somewhere far from home? Well, today on the show, we're going to speak to some folks doing just that. They are here as part of the Pooch Cove Foundation's residency program. And my dance partner for today is James Baird. How you doing?
Not bad for an old fella.
Not bad?
Yeah, for a young man, I'm shit out of luck, but for an old man, I'm doing fine, right?
I think that made the record. Coming into the show, 5 seconds in, we're doing good, James.
Well, you wanted it. You asked for it.
Right?
Exactly. Highlight reel, right?
This is what we can expect from the rest of today. Tell us about the room we're in and what's around us. What's surrounding us right now?
We're surrounded by paintings from a show called Woman. There are about 80 paintings from 40 different artists from approximately 20 different countries. Argentina, the Netherlands, Scotland, which wants to be a country but can't right now, Poland, all over the place, Serbia, Croatia, Belarus, what have you. And they're all on the theme of women, and most of the painters are, in actual fact, also women.
Okay. So that's now.
That's now.
Talk to us about the beginning of this place.
Was
it 89?
Well, I started hosting artists in a house on the water just 100 yards away in 1989, 1990. And I bought this building in 2003 from, I wanted the Catholic Church, was on the other side of the cove, but they tore it down because they wouldn't sell it to Black Pod like myself. But the Anglicans showed up and said, hey, buy this from me. And so I said, yeah. And then it's taken me 17 years to get it to where I want it. And now we host about 80 artists a year for a month each. Some come for longer periods. And we run it from February through December.
How do you find people?
Before the internet, it was really difficult. And because art dealers won't volunteer their artists' home numbers or anything like that. And it was David Bolduc, who had been practicing art in Toronto from way back with David Mirvish, had a gallery on Markham Street. And he told me, he said, if all you're getting for this is a painting, the least you could do is get a good one, right? And he knew where all the bodies were buried. But then when the internet came, that makes a whole bunch of difference. There's people have their own websites. There's Instagram. There's various other sites, Artsy, Foundwork.art. There's a whole bunch of artist sites, Saatchi, etc. And I just keep looking. And then people make references. People say, hey, hey, you got to check out this person. And occasionally we have people literally turning up the doorstep and say, I need a place. Right? So
that's nice. I mean, people literally showing up, need a place, and then they come and paint smart, maybe.
Well, the thing is that a lot of most of life, when you're an artist, is about disappointment. No, you don't get that grant. No, you don't get that tour. No, you can't get that gig or that commission or whatever. And I'd like to change it around. It didn't start off that way, but we changed it around 2005, so it's invitation only, okay? But I don't want people jumping through hoops. I don't need 2 references from people who you're friends who tell me that you can walk on water, right? You don't ask your enemies for references. So all of these documentation was basically meaningless. So reaching out and saying to people who have a hard time finding Newfoundland on a map, right? Then let alone Pooch Cove, it's changed the whole dynamic. Please come. Right? And just all you gotta do is get on a plane. There's no application. You don't have to do anything. Just send me your, airline booking confirmation, because I want to make sure they're coming to St. John's, right? Because a number of them have turned up in New Brunswick.
I've gotten tickets to St. John's before from overseas. Like, here's your ticket. I'm like, this is not where I live. So.
Yeah. Well, or they're at the airport and say, why aren't you here? Well, I said, it's a 2-day drive to get to you. That's one problem. The other problem is we're coming on the 1st. Well, yes, you're flying on the 1st, but you get here at 2 a.m. on the 2nd, right? So I ask actually for the booking confirmation from the airline, so I know you're actually doing it right. But that's fun, and people introduce me to other people and the connections. There's no shortage of artists out there.
No. So there's what you get from this, there's what maybe the
genius
community or the local artists.
I'm surrounded by genius, right?
So that's fun.
It is. It's a riot, and it's informed my life. in my children's life, they got gigs from artists, in Toronto when they wanted to work in the movie business, or they crashed with artists in Germany when they were hitchhiking around Europe. They have these connections. So in this room, they're from, as I say, Argentina, from the Netherlands, from Quebecois, you name it. So
pleasure. Thank you. All right, last but not least, from Quebec, Chantal Leblanc. Hey, bonjour, ça va?
Oui, ça va bien, et toi?
Oh, excellent, excellent. How's everything going?
Oh, it's going really, really well. I'm very happy with my experience.
What have you been doing?
I've been a lot of soul searching, actually. There's two reasons why I came here. The first reason being is I don't paint landscape as a visual artist. I paint emotions that are triggered when I'm in nature. And I hadn't been to Newfoundland, and I was always curious about this place, being the eastern tip of Canada, a country that I love. I traveled a lot, but I've never been. And I was very curious to know how or what kind of emotions would be stirred up. And nature has always been my source of inspiration. So I was curious about that. And the second reason I came over was that I paint in isolation in my studio in Eastern Townships, about 20 minutes from Vermont. And although it's great, when you're inspired, you need isolation to paint. You need it to do your best work. What makes me grow the most in my pursuit of excellence and in my pursuit of being better, in my pursuit of trying to convey those emotions in a more immediate way, is a nurturing space. I need a nurturing space of like-minded individuals with whom I can share my utmost fear, because as artists, we're always pulled between two things, pulled between what our inner voice is telling us we should try to express through the visual arts versus what others are doing and what you feel others want you to do, what galleries expect out of you. Do they like roosters? Or you're going to be producing roosters for 1,000 years. So for me, I've grown in leaps and bounds every single time I found my tribe. So it was really those two objectives. And when I was invited to the Pouch Cove Foundation, it was like, oh my God, how lucky can I be? I've always wanted to visit Newfoundland. I've always wanted to be at the tip edge of my beautiful country, and just try to feel what emotions would be triggered by that. And at the same time, being with like-minded individuals, artists of all visual arts at different aesthetics, different background, different country, different experience, different formation, education, and just be together. And although we're isolated and we work separately, we have unbelievable amounts of opportunities in communicating with each other, and we challenge each other, because how many times will you be with people that dedicate their entire life to a creative life that can challenge you and call on your BS? And because we were constantly drawn with social media in going in 1,000 different directions because it's popular. But as an abstract painter that I try to convey emotions, my job is to find my inner voice. So it was nice to communicate with these wonderful artists that I can now consider to be my friends. They're part of my community. And it was nice because they would challenge me. They would call on my bullshit. So the first 3 weeks, I literally did not produce anything I liked. Anything I liked. And I kept on telling him, oh, it's not what I liked. And they kept on challenging me. Well, why are you doing it? And it took me 3 weeks. And in the last 3 days, I produced some of my best work. I'm back grounded. I know what my inner voice is. And in terms of the landscape, as you've mentioned, Dave, if I were really good with words, I wouldn't be a visual artist. I'd be a writer. But like Dave, I'm very connected to poetry. And this stay has allowed me to discover this amazing poet, Alison Dyer, who's a Newfoundland poet, and I've carried her poems with me almost every second day. I've done 6 about 6 to 10 kilometers on the Eastern Trail. And the emotions I felt, contrary to David, not drawn at all to the sea, but drawn on this entire ecosystem that it hangs onto the cliff for dear life. The trees that bend in gale force winds and get frozen out that protect the rest of the ecosystem was just such a source of wonderful emotion. I mean, and there's a lot of lessons there, and there are lessons I've learned here, that in the face, while you face gale force winds, unbelievable conditions, difficulties, that is the adjacent possibility to create beauty. And this is Pouch Cove. So that's my experience.
Chantal, merci beaucoup.
Bienvenue.
Bienvenue. Merci. All right, we're winding down here now. Just probably only 30 seconds left for yourself, sir. Thanks for having me. Every so often, I like trying to find my way outside of town. So.
Yeah, I know. It's a tough thing. People go south, they go across